It's a pity. So let me just reiterate that there is a special phenomenon in the tzimtzum that is superior to the phenomenon of the parsa. Although in the parsa you have the entire mahus, the entire reality. In the tzimtzum, the oil is totally removed. But then, as a result of that, it is being recreated in a totally different reality, and a world, literally worldliness. Or even atzilus, worldliness that's hislabshut keilim. Primarily the keilim. A keilim, as we said, this is just taking the mitzias of the earth. But then after that, after the tzimtzum, the way the keilim are created, and what inspires the creation of the keilim, and the hamshoch of the oil is actually what's called vehinei, that you draw back from the original source, the light from the original source into the keilim. So this vehinei is actually an oil from the etzem, because you're drawing it back from the original source. Although you were in different stage, completely in different, you've gone through a situation of complete concealment. When you draw it back, you don't draw it from the oil that preceded the concealment. You draw it back from the etzem, from the source. So in the mashal we said that what attracts a person, what is the meaningful thing for a table, when he goes to buy a table, is not what it looks like and the functionality, but it goes back to the essential concept. This is what attracts him. This is what awakens in him the enthusiasm of procuring it. Therefore, there is a real sort of a super reality coming through, although it is a recreation of that. But he draws it from the etzem. That's why it's called vehinei. Okay, so now we are in the last section of the Maimer, page AyinBase 17, the bottom. Vehinei, im heyois de klolos ho'er, ubivchinas ho'er atzmi. Although, as we explained, that klolos ho'er, that the oil overall, meaning the essence, the essential meaning of oil, is b'bchinas oil atzmi. Has the oil, it means that which stays in an oil atzmi, in an atzmi status, because that's what oil is. It stays connected to the source, and it is, and oil is only due to the fact that it is actually representing the source. and therefore he has the inyan from Oyer Atzmi. A fundamental truth, a fundamental principle. This is Oyer. The Komokim yet still Yesh Beich Ilukim Madregis. In that Oyer, while it is all Oyer Atzmi, there are within that Hilukim Madregis different Madregis. And all Madregis are Bibchinas Oyer Atzmi. Zayin Gimel Pam Kodesh. This is the represented by the 3 times Kodesh. The Pirush Kodesh, where the meaning of what Kodesh is, who shall Kodesh Umuvdo. It is the fact that it is removed, remote. Meaning that we're talking about that which is etzem, removed from world. That's Kodesh. Each Kodesh represents this principle that Kodesh removed. L'cha'ira. Therefore, we have the question, Mahu in Gimu Piyam Kodesh. What is the significance? What is the meaning that there are 3 times Kodesh? Kodesh always means the same thing. Hu. However, the inyan is the klal was ha'oir, that the oir overall, the yois oir atzmi, being that it is an oir atzmi, harehu kodesh umuvdo. Because it is oir atzmi, that therefore it is kodesh umuvdo. Completely removed from any presence, from any mitzias of world. It is atzmi. It's an essential reality rather than a reality that can be defined with any qualities. Yet still yesh chilukim be'efel ha'havdol. There are differences. There are different qualities in the manner that it is above and separated and unto itself, so to speak. There are different madrigas, different havdolas. Generally, these different havdolas are identified in 3 different madrigas. Actually, there are many different madrigas, but overall, in general, we have categorized them as 3 different madrigas. And the difference with these madrigas is ba'oifan ha'havdola, in the manner that they are remote and separated. Okay, as I was fearful last night, I don't know who I was talking to. Let me just, put the term havdola. I explained it a little bit in some kind of a context. We always use the human being as a demonstration of something which is atzmi. Because the human being, in fact, stands as an independent and standalone entity. Point to the fact that he stands on 2 feet, unsupported. There's no other creature in the world like that. He is supported entirely by his own spirit. Not only supported by his own spirit, but the whole initial principle that he stands up is a spirit. There's nothing causing him to stand up like this. In other words, it doesn't make things more accessible, doesn't make it more comfortable, convenient, which is his personal choice. There is no worldly way of explaining it. What's made his muvdal, his alone. And then in the entire creation, where he's a participant in the entire creation and relates to absolutely everything in the creation, and yet he remains remote from it. He doesn't identify with anything in the world, even though we say he has to eat, but one cannot define a human being the fact that he knows how to eat, or he knows how to discern taste, or he knows how to cook, or he knows how to, nothing. He stands on his own. As a matter of fact, we pointed out last night, obviously by now the beer is dissipated. Imbecility. We pointed out that a human being, even Havdala Goy has that sense of it. Totally. He eats not because there's something bodily demanding that he eats, not because of his hunger pains. He eats so that he would live, which is already an aspect of Havdalah. Remote, he's eating in the physical world, but that's not exactly what he's doing. Eating assuages his hunger, but that's not what he's involved in.
He's involved in living.
He's not involved in living. He's moved on. This is the principle of Atzmi, is moved on. Translate this in what we're learning now. It says, the Oyer Atzmi, the Pshat, moved on. Kodeshu moved on. It has an essential presence, an essential principle, and that is what it's about. No matter what it is used for, no matter what circumstances, what keilim it is functioning, it remains what it is in itself. And in that itself, there are many madregas, and in general, we categorize them as three Kodesh. Kodesh, Kodesh, Kodesh. And this is what the Rebbe is going to explain now. Get me ready, yes? Gimel Chilukim Madrigas. Vehinei, behold. How do we identify three different madregas in Kodesh, in Havdalah? Oy da Atzilus, the Oy in Atzilus, Harei hu bo b'bchinas hislabshut mamash ba'kilim da Atzilus. This is the union from Atzilus, relative as opposed to that which is above Atzilus. Above Atzilus there is no Oyer mislabish b'keilim. Oyer contained and mislabish b'keilim. Mislabish means is imbued into keilim. In Atzilus there is hislabshut in keilim. Hislabshut in keilim, for example, taking a most obvious and the simplest of examples so that we can relate to the principle. A person has a quality of kindness. This is an neshama quality, chesed. This chesed in the human being is mislabish and keilim. Which means that how is a chesed function, how does a chesed manifest and felt in the human being? When he does a kindness, he gives tzedakah, he helps somebody, he alleviates somebody's pain or suffering. Or he develops, helps a person lift up, rise up to a high madrega. All of this, these are the keilim for the midas chesed. Which was at keilim. In other words, the oil on its own is unidentifiable, is intangible. The way this oil is above Atzilus, there it is representing the truth of the godly truth itself. But the way it comes in Atzilus, where does the oil in Atzilus, the oil that comes in Atzilus, where does it retain its quality? It is through hislabshut and keilim. That's the way it's in Atzilus. And the bomb is hislabshut mamash behakelim the Atzilus. Hislabshut mamash. What is the emphasis of mamash? Like we said yesterday, that in the parsa the oil is mislabish, and be'akovin becomes like the mulubash, like the madrega where it's mislabish. Mislabish mamash ba'keilim means that it actually loses, in a sense, right, its spiritual presence, the brightness. It is mislabish mamash ba'keilim, which means that it acquires the contours of the keilim. Vehinei hislabshut hu. The principle of hislabshut is shehoir nase kifi eifan hakeilim. That the oil becomes kifi eifan hakeilim, fitting according to the keilim. What does this mean? Okay, Noida, as is known, Chassidus, Sho'oir be'etzem hu poshut. That the oil be'etzem, the oil in essence, the true aspect of the oil is poshut. Poshut means it has no particular quality, particular definition. Just to give us a little bit of a handle, Pshitas is something which we're not going to discuss now, but just a handle. Which means hoy be'etzem poshut. A person who is a bal chesed, a kind person, a person who is a bal gvura, very demanding, very precise, a person who is generous, like Tevet, and many other things, a person who pursues something like netzach, hoid. All of these qualities are manifestations of the oil hanefesh. Each one comes through in a different color and different format. But the essence behind each one of them is that there is a living sensitivity. In other words, a person who was not sensitive, forget about kindness, he was not sensitive to the principle of life, there would be no such thing as kindness or gvura or anything. The oil is an oil nefesh.
That living sensitivity is the pshitus.
This is pshitas. What's life? Is life kindness, strictness, generosity? Life is an neshama thing, which is, like we said, is very is not even of the world. There's no way to define life in worldly terms. So the oil be'etzem is poshut. Uksheba bekli, keilim. When the oil comes down into keilim, harei hu bibchinas oil hachochma v'oil hachesed. When it comes into keilim, then there is a quality associated with this oil. Such as oil hachochma or oil hachesed, which means that at that point the oil acquires that quality, that tendency, that color of chesed, not only functional, but the oil itself, the whole feeling is the whole sense of what the truth is chesed and chochma, rather than its initial, its an original orientation, the idea of chayes and nefesh. This is the principle of hislabshut keilim. Okay, this is a first step towards understanding, exposing the principle of three different, or many different, in general, three different levels of kodesh or muvdo. So I shouldn't get lost in this. So he says the oil is be'etzem is poshut, and then the oil comes with hislabshut in keilim. That's oil Chassidus. Hislabshut in keilim means that it's mislabesh in a particular form of expressing of the oil, whether it is chochma or chesed. This union that it comes in the form of chochma and chesed, this is not inherent in the oil, because the oil be'etzem is poshut. Abraham, we'd appreciate if you would tone down a bit. Huh? Tell him, he'll stop.
Thank you.
In other words, when oil hanefesh is mislabesh in chesed, it means it manifests itself in the form of chesed. It actually, the oil hanefesh itself acquires that tendency, that quality. It is not merely a response to a circumstance. It looks like chesed, because under the circumstances this is like chesed. But essentially he is not involved in chesed. He's involved in oil hanefesh. It actually is mislabesh in this keilim. and it actually acquires that quality.
The hislabshut became.
The hislabshut actually affects the oil. It's no longer poshut. This becomes, so to speak, the reality that he relates to. Evidence in the fact that at this time when he is into chesed, he could not relate to Gvura.
Really?
At the moment when he's into chesed, he can relate to Gvura. What?
The keilim has to be affected by the or too.
What's the difference? Let's learn
This-
one thing at a time.
This that he cannot relate to Gvura. But it is a human quality that if he sees his chesed is misplaced or he sees a situation slightly differently, he'll change in a second. That's a human.
He will not change in a second. It becomes a whole labor. And the reason he can change is because he can go back to the source. But at this time, this involvement is a chesed involvement. A person who is a chasdom, who is in a tendency of chesed, and he is drawn into an argument. He despises it. Not because he can't argue, he argues under different circumstances he can argue, but now he's in a state of chesed. Why are you marring my life? It actually becomes the quality of the oil, of the chayes hanefesh. That's when he hislabshut. This inyan that the oil acquires the quality of the keilim. That is a novel thing in the oil, because the oil be'etzem, in essence, is poshut. As we said before, in the chayes hanefesh and so forth. I want to skip the parentheses for the moment. Let's go to the second half of the next line. Vehinei, and the point in there is, what does that mean that it becomes oil hachesed, oil hachochma? Oil itself is poshut. How does it become oil hachochma, oil hachesed? The answer is shehakeli poil behoil. The keilim has an effect on the oil. Lihiyois kifi'efon hakeilim, so that the oil should be kifi'efon hakeilim, and according to the nature of the keilim itself, or poil piyulas hakeilim, and poil piyulas hakeilim, and it functions and has the effect of piyulas hakeilim, of the function of the keilim. Again, what we need to understand here is that the function, even though the function seems like an external thing, like we said, he helps him, he gives him tzedakah, he gives him food. This giving of food is not just the action of the keilim. The oil, the chayes hanefesh itself, that gets involved in this. This is evidence in the fact that there is a significant difference from the perspective of the recipient, with what kind of attention, what kind of oil the kindness is acted, is given. You give someone $1, and it could be in multiple ways. The gift of the dollar is identical. But whether there is the oil hanefesh involved, the oil chesed involved, or it is just the keilim, is a big difference. It can be identified. It's palatable, so to speak. Because in real hislabshut, the oil itself becomes part of the keilim. And the intent of there is not only the result of the action, but the action itself.
The intention is not the result of the action, but the action itself.
The involvement, right? The highest that's involved is not just the result of the action, but the action itself. The highest. This is the pshat that the oir hanefesh, which is essentially poshut, acquires a special a quality, certain definitive quality. Not only in the resultant action, but in the chayes itself. This is the meaning of hislabshut. The keilim, which in our example is the action, poil behoir, has an effect on the oil that acts through the keilim, that the oil should become k'yerif and hakeilim, and the oil should become like the keilim itself, according to the nature of the keilim. Upeir pulos hakeilim, and it should actually be participating in the action of the keilim.
That is a shino in the oil?
Right.
Shino in the oil?
That's what you're saying. The shino, that's in hislabshut. So shino in the oil acquires a color, so to speak, color of chesed or gvur.
So how is it kadosh?
What?
How is it kadosh?
What's kadosh?
How is it talking about light is kadosh?
Kadosh.
Kadosh.
Kodesh.
Holy, separate.
Okay,
separate.
wait. Why are you jumping the gun? So, in the hislabshut, there is that effect, even though it's still oil. But the oil is now no longer this oil that is uninvolved with keilim, but with color, but it has a particular involvement. Okay, we'll stop here now.
You have a glass, and the oil shines through the glass. How does the machine
Fine.